Hi, everybody. I'm Kanan Chandran, the publisher of stormasia.com, and this is our regular series of discussions on things topical, trending, and current. It's the WED Web Chat, the Wednesday Web Chat. And today we have a topic that has been in the air for quite a while, a discussion that I think will maybe bring a bit more understanding to things that are taking place in the world. It's about the technology out there and how will technology educate you for the future of work. So this session is going to involve people in the industry in different aspects of the industry. We've got practitioners, we've got academics, we've got a student, we've got people who are so knowledgeable in this space. They will bring a lot of useful information for us to talk about. When we look at the world in general over the centuries, it's always been divided into optimists and pessimists. And the future will also still have that divide, right? There will be many who look to the future with optimism because there are so many things that are being discovered, new things that can be applied to life and our living and the way we go about doing things, that it'll make things so much easier. We can definitely attest to that. From chiseling messages on stone chips to just putting them out on a keyboard now. It's such a vast improvement. So what is the future going to be looking like? Optimists will have wonderful things to say about it. Pessimists, on the other hand, will always say, oh, I liked it back then, you know. Why do you need to change my life? You know, I was very comfortable doing it this way. Why do you want to disrupt things? And disruption, unfortunately, is the way of the world. So how do we take all this in our stride and how do we make the most of it? Today's discussion, we come to terms with the terms like augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, generative AI, chat GPT, a whole bunch of different acronyms and it's a lingo all onto itself, which is seeping into the world. Now, today's panelists are a very interesting bunch of people who are so entrenched in this ecosystem. We've got Renee Tan, who's the founder and managing director of HashTaqs Private Limited. She helps businesses to scale up and internationalize through brand transformation, omni-channel marketing, and ecosystem development. And she's had corporate experience in a host of industries, from sales through to healthcare, supply chain and logistics, mining, power, so on and so forth. It's probably easier to put together a list she isn't involved in. It'll probably be much shorter. And she's also a partner for Artificial Intelligence International Institute, a think tank that advocates sustainable AI for humanity. We've got Oliver Tian, who's the director and founder of Oliver Tian Associates. He's had 30 years working in information technology sector. And that includes the public service. He wants to connect technology with human values. He's also an advisor to the Asia Pacific Assistive Robotics Association, APARA. He's a vice chair of International Alliance of Robotic Associations and a member of the advisory board of the Responsible Technology Institute at the University of Oxford. And that's just a short list of a long list. All the way from Missouri, we've got Prof. Xiao Keng Ling, who is the head of the Department of Information Systems and chair professor of Information Systems at the City University of Hong Kong. Singaporean, he is the editor-in-chief of the Journal of Database Management and a senior editor at the Industrial Management and Data Systems Journal. He's ranked as one of the top information systems researchers globally. Welcome, Prof. Xiao. Look forward to getting a lot of your knowledge to the audience. Making up our quartet of panelists is Mahit Kanagaraj. Now, he's student. He's studying at the Tampines Meridian Junior College, and I thought it would be very good to have a student on board to ask questions of our very accomplished panelists. But what lies ahead? What is the future going to look like for him as he journeys through and comes out at the other end ready for the workforce? Wahid's deeply passionate about artificial intelligence, and he hopes to become an AI developer or a machine learning engineer. And he certainly wants to ask questions of the panelists. So with that, let's open up the discussion. Can I ask Prof. Now, with all of this going on, all these changes taking place, what is the real excitement? What are the exciting things that people should really understand?
If you look at the exciting part, I would say we are living in a very interesting time. Things are changing very rapidly. I'm a big fan of sci-fi movies, and I love to watch Star Trek. And a lot of things in the Star Treks are coming through, especially the last few months with the ChatGPT. Initially, we thought that it's going to be a few years away or 10 years away, but suddenly it happened. So a lot of interesting things happening now. So that's the positive side. Of course, that also creates a lot of challenges and issues and concerns. And that's something that we can discuss further today. Yeah, but very interesting. I'm very passionate about these AI topics. There's advantages and disadvantages, and we can look at it more in subsequently.
Okay. How about for you, Renee? What's exciting about the space you're in?
I think this season, I think it's the evolution of the applications of AI. I've seen quite a number of interesting solutions today, which, in the past, maybe it's not brought to light. I think we are familiar with ChatGPT, but that's something that most people would know about. But beyond that, what are the applications of AI? And recently, I mean, as a company at HashTaqs, we ourselves are learning new solutions, and we have to train our team to embark on, AI-powered sort of omni-channel marketing, and get ourselves trained in this area. And besides, the use cases for increasing productivity in the workplace, I thought something interesting came to light recently, and that was maybe in the areas of voice AI, and that is to do with mental health. With the rise of, the evolution of technology, I think people are immersed maybe in certain spaces, be it if they are gamers, then of course in that world, then in Web3, right? And there you also see a rise in people with mental health issues. And then we've got such applications who could also assist to detect, as voice AI as a biomarker to detect depression and anxiety to help people. So I think these are some of the things that I just want to bring up that I thought would be interesting to share. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, certainly. I think mental health is one of the issues that's plaguing a lot of society. If AI can help understand and identify them, that'll be very good. Oliver, how about yourself?
Well, when I look at the title of the topic of our discussion, what came to mind immediately is the whole learning process. We all know that since we were young, we went to school and we learned a lot of topics just in case you need that knowledge, right? And it is quite evident today that many of the concepts and principles that we learn may not get applied in the course of our work, right? And the future of work is going to step in such that there will be a need for us to go into a just-in-time learning model, whereby we learn good enough knowledge to apply immediately to solve problems at work. And that skill is a very important skill that we need to equip ourselves with in order for us to do well in the future work. So my discussion will be centered around just-in-case learning versus just-in-time learning.
Okay, all right. And Wahid, over to you. You're fresh onto the scene. You're learning a lot of things. You're probably playing a lot of games and stuff like that. What's exciting for you in this space?
For me, what's exciting is that when it comes to like students and AI, many people would start like thinking of education, like how AI could aid them in education. But I think that for students, like mental health, something really important. Many of my friends are like sometimes sad because they feel that like they do not have a companion a proper companion to like share their feelings with. That's why many teenagers are getting depressed nowadays. But then I think like with AI, like generative AI, like ChatGPT, maybe there could be in the upcoming years, maybe some software that could, aid mental health for students, maybe like a AI companion, but more better.
Right. When you talk to your parents, do they talk about how they grew up, what school was like for them, and the friends that they built up?
For
How
my
about
parents,
for yourself?
for myself,
Yeah, for yourself, how does that apply? Do you have friends, or is your best friend your mobile phone?
for me, I'm a sociable person, so I like to talk to a lot of people. So for me, my best friend isn't really my mobile. My best friend is like my classmates. So, and then you asked me about my parents, right? So back in my parents' time, the thing was that there wasn't like my father grew up in a village, so there was even like a computer there. So there mostly learning was just like rote learning, basically just like memorization of whatever it is that he's learning. And yeah, there was no computer, no AI, no technology. So if he had to make friends, he just had to like talk to other people. But I think with like how AI is progressing currently, there would be more services that could aid students, whether being in like maybe like a form of tuition, AI tuition without any teacher. I think that could be possible as well in the future.
Okay. So one of the things, Mahid, that you brought up is the fact that we are relying a lot more on technology for information and for support. Is that the intention of this, to create that gap between people? Because is it viewed as divisive, or is it viewed as inclusive? Rennie or Oliver, Prof, anybody who's been in this space, if you'd like to jump in, by all means.
Yeah, actually, Karan and Mahid, let me jump in a little bit here. I do feel that some additional skills will be needed for the students to prepare themselves as they enter into the industry. We talk a lot about different pedagogies and methodologies of what we should learn, but in my view, there are probably 5 very important skills that we need to equip our students today, and very quickly, because as technology starts to advance, they need to know how to leverage technology to be effective. Of course, the first skill is something which we talk a lot about, and I think every student needs to have good critical thinking, right? To think critically around a problem that they see, an issue that they face. And I won't delve into that because I think there's a lot of curriculum on that. The second area is prompting. I think prompt engineering is becoming a hot topic today, but we do not really teach our students prompt engineering. We do not know how to ask questions. We do not know how to ask the right questions to engineer the answers we want, right? So we get fed up when we ask a question without directing it properly, and out comes a answer that is not what you need. The lawyers do it very well, right? When they question the weakness, they get to the answers they want, and that is another skill that's important. The third one is really around how do they leverage tools and technology today. There's so many tools. How do you assess the tool? How do you find where are the tools available? How do they kind of use those tools and validate the answers that it gives? So leveraging tools and technology to support what they're doing is very, very key. The fourth one, I guess, is a no-brainer, design thinking, right? Really knowing how to design, get the information, put it together and design it effectively. The last one I like to support is storytelling. I think storytelling is very important, right? If you're not able to express and articulate a proposition to who you're talking to, you're not going to work. Last year, when I was running a conference, I invited a speaker from the Philippines, and she was a data scientist. And my question to her is, what is the role of a data scientist? And she tells me the most important thing that she does is storytelling. You can have all those data on your spreadsheet, but if you cannot construct a story and advise the executive, it's not going to work. So I think these 5 skills are going to be very key to prepare ourselves for the future of work. Technology will be there, right? But if you're not able to take advantage or to build up those 5 skills I mentioned to equip yourself for the future, the challenge is you may not be well positioned for the future.
Professor, what do you think of what Oliver just said? Is that something which resonates with with what you're teaching as well?
Yeah, these are very important skill sets to have. And I wrote a paper probably 6 years ago about AI and future education. So I did mention inside that paper that the AI is going to be a lot in the hard skill side, and then the human can substantiate that or supplement that, complement that with the soft skills. Now, with the recent advancement in technology and AI, I start to wonder how many of these skill sets can or cannot be replaced by AI. Okay, like storytelling. ChatGPT is very good in storytelling. So that makes me start to thinking, wow, what are the skill set that we can train people so that their jobs will not be replaced, or they can have a value in the society, in the economy. So recently we have an interesting topic or research theme that's looking at AI human collaboration. So we are going to have AI in a team in the future, in the work team, in the virtual team, there will be AI components. So how are we going to incorporate, how are we going to make use or capitalize on these AIs in the team? And of course, that comes with other skill set that's required, how you work with the AI. So that human AI collaboration, how you work with the AI systems, and also at the higher level, management level, how are you going to assess the team performance now that you have AI in the team? Okay, in the past, we do peer evaluation of our peers. Do we do the peer evaluation for AI as well? And do the AIs do peer evaluation of its teammates in the team? How much is their contribution or their contribution in the coming up with the solution or outcome? So these are all very interesting questions. So from management point of view, how to do evaluation, how to give credits to the team members, because eventually at the end of the year, you still have to give a pay increment, you give bonuses. Well, of course, AI is not going to get a bonus or pay increment, but how you can distribute the others to the rest of the people, and what is their percentage of contribution? If they are playing a minor role and the AI is playing a bigger role, then that becomes a big issues from a management perspective, from a business perspective. Then these humans are really important or valuable. So that gets into a lot of complex issues. Yeah.
Okay, so with all of this, with AI sort of being part of the team, right? Would it reach a stage where you would tend to lean towards whatever AI says because it's less likely to be incorrect, although it does make things up, from what I understand, that ChatGPT makes things up, doesn't like to come up with a zero result, right? But is it going to be such that businesses and people will lean more towards AI and the likes rather than the human information and creativity?
So let me jump into this first. I think this is an interesting question. Things are evolving very fast. So I think there's a trust issue with AI. One of the main reasons with the trust issue is that currently the AI processing a lot of time is a black box. Yeah, so they cannot explain the solution. So you ask them, why do you come up with this solution or this recommendation? It cannot explain. So you cannot explain, then becomes an issue. Why am I going to trust you? You cannot explain why you derive at this solution. So we just, I think we just submitted a proposal that's on XAI, explainable AI. Yeah, so we want the AI to be able to explain the results, the recommendations, the suggestions, the solutions. So it's something that is evolving. So once AI can do that, then the trust issue will be probably somewhat resolved, and then AI can play a bigger role in the whole team process or organizational process or in the business environment.
Renee, you've seen quite a big jump from the point you finished studying and entered the workforce. Quite a lot of changes have taken place, right? Probably quite significant for you. How are you coping? How are your sort of colleagues, your interaction with your team? How is that being defined by technology?
Oh, interesting one. I think the move happened more apparently during pandemic, I guess. Yeah, it forced everyone to go online, right? And but we are digital first company. When we first started, of course, because our team, we are regional team, So to meet regularly, we have to go online in the first place. However, we used to travel a lot and do have a lot of meetup sessions, which we couldn't do during the pandemic. And it was something like this. We did a lot of virtual summits. And the thing is that technology moves so fast that we used to do things on our own. Say, for example, oh, we need to brainstorm for content for our next conference, for example. We need to think of new topics for social media, right? But today, that speed, I think it has, improved a lot. So our team will start focus on things that will matter more, which would be strategic thinking, consulting work, and important decision making, that sort of thing. And of course, it doesn't mean that we rely everything on AI for the rest of the work, but definitely it has shortened the whole ideation process. Okay, so indeed, it has increased our internal productivity, and with that, I would say that with that shortened time, we could discuss on things that really matter. So say, for example, when I say ideation, I'll say ideation of a design. Let's just come up with some ideas. Oh, I have these ideas. Now it's with generative AI, these content, the initial phases of content, these are like little mock-ups, right? Provided by these tools, we provided to us. And we see that as an inspiration to us to create that actual item. And it keeps evolving until you get it. And then, with that, I think it really helps the team a lot. And I would say that for the future of workforce, it all starts also with the fundamental of learning. I think Olivia covered a lot on education. My point of view is that values can be ingrained with the support of parents or school system, and education is not about force-feeding subjects. So individuals score for the sake of it. I think the mindset shift has to happen. Education must incorporate things like character building to build inquisitiveness. So learners will believe in learning, lifelong learning, whenever and wherever, building global experiences and be multifaceted with a few skills sets. Because as we know, machines can outwit us in terms of information. Our storage is limited for sure. So we need to work on our strengths. Smarter decision-making, human touch to build stronger relationships. So I just wanted to share that, for people to progress, they need to be progressive by nature. And machine learning is like a baby's brain. They both learn. We teach a baby to walk, talk, eat. They remember, repeat it. Machine learning is the same. To build a digital baby brain is the same thing. And experiences matter. Babies get smarter as they experience more of the world. Machine learning models also become more intelligent the more training data we feed them. And feedback is also important. For us humans, we must be open to take on feedback and also try to evolve positively, right? Babies rely on feedback to learn too. So if innovation is progressive, if machine learning doesn't stop, we as humans should not stop learning. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'll be the underlying thing about humanity, right? We are always learning and we're also creating things. But I'm just wondering, with this reliance on things like ChatGPT and the likes, are we becoming lazier in the initial part of the process where I got to think of an idea? Now, instead of actually thinking about it, say, oh, let me ask ChatGPT about an idea, and I get 20 samples of things to latch on to. How much, and since ChatGPT is relying on what's already out there, are we losing out on the potential for fresh, creative ideas?
Well, let me jump in there, Kanan. Prof. Xiao mentioned about Star Trek as a movie that's becoming real. I want to draw attention to another movie called WALL-E, right? And those of you watched the animation WALL-E, right? Humans became so lazy until they become bubbly and they lose their finger limbs. They can't even walk. Will we come to a point like this where we become so dependent on technology that we forget our human values, our human self? You mentioned that you mentioned when you introduced me that one of my messages is connecting technology to human values. I think we need to figure a way of keeping the human value. We need to become eventually masters of technology and not so much slave to technology. And when I say master of technology, I mean we have to be always one step ahead of technology, right? Whether it's human AI, human machine collaboration, or the aspects which Renee mentioned. We humans need to take that one step further and be better than technology. We must always be the one creating technology, managing technology, and eventually being able to leverage the technology to support our capability. And if possible, and I still advocate it, it should be able to extend our potential of doing things, right? So that becomes very important to be masters of technology.
Okay, Mahit, when you hear all of this, what do you think of your role in the future? Because you said you want to get into developing content, developing AI and stuff like that, right? Building on that. What do you think you can add to this space?
For me, like the problems with AI currently are that, like I mentioned before, it's more of like it can give you information, but it can't really like think emotionally like a human. Like for example, there was this instance in HSBC, they had some voice security. So one of the BBC reporter's twin brother mimicked the reporter's voice, and he managed to crack the HSBC. So if that AI was able to, like, instead of just using the voice, maybe it had like emotional thought like humans, like critical decision making, maybe it could have figured out that maybe it's not him, it's his twin brother. But because it was more of just like machine learning, right? It's just based on the experiences. It has not faced that experience before. Then it won't create something new. Unlike humans, like for example, if you give a human a new something that they haven't really seen before, even though they might struggle a bit, they would like at least like know what to do. So for me, I would want to like make the AI think emotionally, but I think it's a big leap, but I would try to work towards it. And one of the questions I have is that like, so how can we address the ethical implications of AI in the workplace, such as bias and privacy concerns? Because AI is trained on data, right? So if that data already has its own biasness due to like programmers or something, then it will start like generating more biased content as well. So like, how do we like reduce it?
Prof. Yao, any thoughts on how to neutralize biasness?
Well, I guess the ethical concern is always there. Yeah, so we talk about future of work, future of humanity, and then of course the ethical concern is always are we going to make human useless, or there's a term out there called the useless class. So that came out about 4 or 5 years ago. That these are not a group of people, they are temporarily out of job, but they will be permanently jobless. So they are called the useless class. They'll never get a job because they just cannot catch up with the technology. So that becomes a big problem. And then, of course, people start experimenting with universal basic income and other things. And even some psychologists suggest that, wow, we watch a movie, Avatar, there's a new version. I think the previous one is better. So you cannot be somebody in the real world. Maybe you can be a superhero in a virtual world. So that will fulfill your psychological needs. So psychologists actually suggested that, yeah, if you cannot find fulfillment in real life, yeah, go into virtual world and be somebody there. So there's a lot of changing environmental factors, and this AI is making it very complex. Yeah, we also later on we talk about a bit about economic system and how we're going to teach students in classroom, and microcredits, stackable certificates, how the companies can recognize all this just-in-time knowledge acquisition through maybe MOOC, MOOC, massively open access content. So all these things about how to get certification and learn when you need it. Actually, I'm now in the US for vacation and for some official work. When I was here, one of the big company in aerospace, very big company aerospace, one of the world largest, yeah, near St. Louis, yeah, actually talked to us and said, hey, we want your students, don't have to complete a degree, just work with us after maybe their high school, and as and when they need to have certain skill set, they were going to take a class from you. And eventually, after you stack up all this, they can come and exchange for a degree. So these are some of the new ideas that are out there. So that fit into what Olio was saying earlier about the just-in-time training, just-in-time knowledge, rather than just-in-case knowledge. We have a lot of just-in-case knowledge. So a lot of general education, like some of the things that I learned in my secondary school in Singapore, in my junior college in Singapore, I said, wow, interesting stuff, but I'll never use it. It's just for getting a score for me to get into university. I'll never use it in the rest of my life. Yeah, although I can understand a compound, mixture, atoms, but do I use it? Not really most of the time, right? But a lot of skill set like programming. Of course, now ChatGPT can write program as well. Programming and understanding of AI. Because you want to talk about human AI collaboration, you need to understand about AI. If you don't understand about AI, how are you going to work with AI? So that's the issue. Yeah, so these are the knowledge that we need to have.
Okay, so
Let me
with
add on to what Professor Seth has shared. I really thought Mahit had a very good question around bias. And humans are always biased. So if we look at all the past data, all the past history that human has generated, they are all biased, right? So in the design of future systems, and particularly future AI systems, and Renee talked about machine learning, right? You learn based on past data. I think in the design of future AI system, there's a need to create synthetic data to be added onto the data set in order for the data to consider the other side of the biased data, right? So if we rely 100% on data that's been collected in the last 20, 30 years or more, right, they are definitely going to be biased. So as an AI system designer, you must inject synthetic data to assist that process to ensure that you have a proper balance. The second thing I want to kind of help Mahit with this question is around the fact that today's machine learning and large language models that we all see is purely based on language learning. And I think there is a limitation to that. ChatGPT works on very well, but we all know that the data set ends in 2021. So if you want anything more current, it doesn't exist in that data set. There's a whole discussion around contextual learning. And I think this is probably more important. If you look at how a baby learns or a young kid learns, language is not the issue. It is the context and the meaning of what they encounter and what they learn. I work with a group of startup in Israel and in Ireland as well, and they look closely at how they can design and create the future of learning using context, right? A spoon is a spoon, and a spoon has got multiple contextual association that is linked to that, right? You don't look at the learning of spoon as in SPON and what it's doing now, but really what it can do. So contextual learning will kind of remove some of the biasness that happens today. In my role as advisor to the Responsible Technology Institute, part of the University of Oxford, we have heavy discussion around this topic. We have heavy discussion around how we can actually extend beyond the limitation of what AI can generate, given its very limited data sets. So we need to think of new models, right? AI can learn, and to get away from the biasness and move into a lot more objectivity. Back to you, Kanan.
I'd like to add one point as well, if you don't mind, Kanan.
Sure,
yeah, so to answer the question on AI biasness, I would feel that diversity is crucial. Having a diverse machine learning team, I mean, I say diversity, we're talking about gender, nationality, age, expertise, etc., that can ask diverse questions and understand the diverse end users and annotate with diversity. So unbiased data, we should begin with that to learn from all these diverse experiences and data inputs. So yeah, this is just my add-on.
Yeah. Okay. However, you're talking about synthetic data, right? Isn't that also with bias, because whoever's inputting it will have their biasness incorporated within? So how do you actually neutralize everything?
Well, in the first place, we expect that the AI creators will look at a more holistic view on things, right? We probably will not be able to achieve 100% unbiased view, right? But by introducing synthetic data, you're actually trying to normalize the biasness to a larger extent. And hopefully we have good, ethical, responsible engineers who can help to ensure that we come to a better equilibrium between biasness and unbiasedness, and hopefully bring us to a better society to live in.
Okay, so one of the things that you raised was about education, right, and trying to move the whole process into just in time and stuff like that. Now, I'm just wondering, the education system is kind of a big elephant. It takes a long time to make any sort of moves. All technology moves at a much, much quicker rate. Now, how are we going to bring that speed to a system that is so entrenched and is also linked into the governance and system of a country, which also takes a long time to move? Now, how do we make full use of the benefits of technology when we've got a system that doesn't move as quickly?
Karan, you touched my heart. And in fact, the example that Prof. Sel gave is actually a very pertinent one. The example of how the company in St. Louis is offering to the university, right? Send your interns to my company, we work on it. If there's a need for a certain skill, go back and pick up one or two micro credentials from the university, from the professors, and over time, if we can stack up all this learning, give them the degree. There's no need to go through the standard course. So somewhere there is a need for the industry and the academia to come together to allow a model for a industry academia hybrid degree to make that happen. And the same goes for future work, because in the learning process for future, right, the HR processes can no longer be the same as it is today. Today, if I look at a HR department, how they train their personnel, you have a list of schedules of training, right? And you match employee A to schedule B, and that's your job done. But in the future, there's a lot more that needs to be done to ensure that the competency is built correctly at the right time, right, for the right project, so that the company become a lot more efficient. So the just in case learning, or the other phrase is learning in the process of work, right? Learning in the flow of work becomes a very important model for future human resource personnel to consider.
So let me jump in here,
Yes.
since I'm from the academic side. So I've been dealing with this issue for a long time. Yeah. So as I say, as you say correctly, kind of in the IT, computer science, IS, we move much faster than a lot of other disciplines. So we always face the issue when we say we want to change the course or introduce a new course. Then always the question is that, why are you changing again? So my response is that if you are not changing every 12 months or 18 months, you should be asking me, why are you not changing? Rather than asking me, why are we changing? Of course, we have to understand it from their perspective. Well, some of them are from maybe science or humanities area, like English, no offense to English teacher. We don't see a lot of new English words being added to the dictionary every year, right? Probably a handful. Of course, English is not going to change. You cannot change the English teaching syllabus every year. Then I say, what are you doing last year? Why are you changing it today? So history, you teach Roman history. Roman history is Roman history. You're not going to change it every year. Unless you have some major discovery, find something new, then, okay, all the previous history were wrong. Now we have the new history. Yeah, but technology, we are very time sensitive. And we need to provide our students with the latest technologies, latest knowledge for them to be able to get into the job market and be successful in their career. And I know that in the IT industry, most of the time we say that the youngest employee usually are the most up to date, because they just came out from university, they learn the latest things. So yes, Kanan, you're right. I think the environment needs to change, and we need to adapt quickly. We cannot be still the same old big elephant that walks slowly. We have to be like a leopard. Go ahead.
Can I add on?
Yeah. Let me just ask. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
So like for me personally, right, like I found something interesting is that things like, for example, programming, right, you could like learn it by yourself online as well. It's like, it's not like traditionally like maybe things like engineering or whether you want to be a doctor or something, you would need to go to a university. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to learn how to be a doctor by myself. That's quite hard. But then like if it's things like programming, you could just look at it online. You can learn it yourself. A university would help as well, but I have like read online in many instances where people did like professional certifications from like Coursera and the Google machine learning certificate and things like that, and they have built their portfolio and gone through like what Mr. Jan said, like it's like a new learning instead of just going through the same old school and learning like subjects that are not really of use to you.
Okay. Yeah, I think one of the things with the education system is because it's linked into a larger system. How do you go about making the changes from elephant to leopard?
I think the academic institution need to understand that. I think they are slowly understanding that, and they are slowly changing, but slowly changing. Yeah, we need to change much faster. And I think the government agency, the government units can play a bigger role and say, hey, we want to make sure that all these things need to move faster, right? Especially for some of the very rapidly changing curriculum and courses. We need to ensure that they're up to date all the time. And we do need to make the whole changing process much easier and less time consuming and less effortful.
Yeah.
Kanan, that question is very pertinent because of the fact that it varies across the countries. With the AIII organization, we initiated a committee to look into that topic 2 years ago. We have not concluded all our findings, but we find that education process is linked to a bigger system, and that's correct. It also depends on the country itself, what is needed, the talents needed within the countries. If the infrastructure is not ready for a highly motivated, technology-driven environment, then the traditional model may still make sense. It also depends on what you want to produce within the economy, right? If the economy requires a lot more creation, a creative economy, then you need the individual talents or competency that's being built up to be ready for that kind of environment. There is also a factor where it depends on what the government wants to drive, the leadership wants to drive. If at the end of the day, you want to build a compliant workforce, right, that works for the civil service and do what the top says, then the current model makes sense because everybody must comply to the curriculum, everybody must comply to the assessment, right? And eventually, when they go out after 10, 12 years of training, you just become very compliant. So it really depends, and it's exhibited in a number of countries. Hong Kong, for example, has got a lot of entrepreneurs, right? There's some countries that cannot produce entrepreneurs because their education system doesn't allow that. So the country that's able to see the light at the end of the tunnel and make the shift quickly will probably gain and be able to benefit from technology. Those that are stuck with their traditional past will continue to be stuck with the traditional past.
There's another group here that just like to raise before we wind up the session. It's a group that will be affected quite badly by all these changes because they come from an earlier generation. They have not had access to a lot of the initial training that could help them. Some have managed to somehow keep up, or some are also leading it, but many will be left by the wayside because they don't have the skills. Now, what happens to this group? I mean, is there any way where the AI could make things more understandable for this group and more accessible to this group? Could AI dumb itself down for that purpose, you think?
Let me say something here. I think the group you're referring to is probably the aging group that probably may not have the benefit of technology in their school days, right? Their challenge is not just technology itself. I think their challenge is also connecting with the young ones. So one of the companies I work with, Shine Services, actually looks at connecting the young ones with the young ones, ONES, ONCE, right? Meaning that we have to find a way to use technology platform, right, to connect the grandparents and the grandchildren. Today, I think they live in two separate worlds, right? The grandparents are familiar with board games and the grandchildren are familiar with mobile games, right? How they pull the two together. So if we can find that connection within any family environment or within any sub-society, right? We will enable or give a motivation to this group to understand technology and be able to learn how to leverage technology to assist them to be relevant to their, not just their family unit, but also to the larger society. And that's going to be a very important role. The question is, who owns that responsibility? Is it the individual family unit, or can the society leadership play a part in supporting that kind of program? So that is a larger discussion that's probably outside what we're talking here.
Yeah, it is. But it is a discussion that needs to be had as well. So just to wrap up, could I just ask each of you to to respond to this? Do you see the future as brighter, and what would you like it to look like 10 years from now? Let's start with you, Mahit.
So like nowadays, I'm still carrying a very heavy school bag, so there are a lot of books in it, and I find it very tedious and like annoying. So it would be nice if everything like changes to a laptop. So I like that for my current batch, they have introduced like PLD, personal learning devices. And I feel like in the next 10 years, instead of using like books for textbooks, which are like 500 pages long, they could save on paper and just make it into a laptop. And another thing that I would like is more of home-based learning. So currently for my college, what happened was last term we had like a few home-based learning days, and this term we are not really having any. So I would like if there are more home-based learning, because nowadays there are many like SLS where they just post an assignment, we look at it and we do it. We don't necessarily have to come to school. Or sometimes like as students, I feel like we need to rest as well, like coming to school every day, going back at 6 p.m., from early morning to 6 p.m. I think it's like a long time. And I think sometimes we just need to rest, and HBL could provide that. So in the future, I would want like digitalization of education and more like home-based learning days.
Okay, in 10 years' time, you could be joining the workforce.
Oh yeah,
you could be always studying, yeah. But does it look brighter for you? Are you looking forward to the future?
I'm definitely looking forward to the future. So like AI is really like expensive. It could be from like healthcare, and it can go all the way down to, I don't know, even like gaming or anything. I think our life experience would definitely improve. For example, if in 10 years, this is what I want to see. If I have some, let's say I have, not me, let's say someone has some disease or illness, right? So this disease or illness will have certain type of symptoms and stuff like that. So for me, it would be nice if like doctors could use AI to see what disease or person might have based on their symptoms, things like that. And yeah, and I feel like AI and human, instead of like people looking at AI as a sort of enemy, right? They more of like work together. Like for example, maybe ChatGPT could be used to generate some new idea, and then humans, since we are more of critical thinkers, right? The GPT will just give us like one line, and then we use most of it. Yeah, and create new things.
Okay, great. Thanks. Now, for the other three of you, if I could just add to my request, does the future look bright? What do you want it to look like 10 years from now? And one tip for Mahit and his generation. Olivia?
One I don't like about my school days is when we have a curious student in class. Teacher will always say, that's outside the syllabus, or Oliver, don't try to be funny and don't stop asking the silly questions. I see the future as very positive. To answer that first part of the question, I believe and I hope that we eventually will be able to build personalized learning pathways. Not just personalized learning devices, right? But pathways, meaning that I can look at my interest area, my motivation, and allow me to branch off. And eventually all the micro learnings will come together and give me the credentials at the different year of education. So personalized learning pathways is what I look forward to.
Okay. Do you have a tip from Mahit?
Don't stop learning. I mean, don't end your learning with the school curriculum. Go beyond that.
Yeah, true. Prasya, how about you?
Oh, thank you. So in 10 years' time, while Mahit will be joining the workforce, hopefully he'll be retiring from the workforce. So from my point of view, I would like to see more of the development of AI. Since I do not have kids, I want to have an AI companion, AI robotic nurse to take care of me, And there will be simple kind of, as you mentioned just now, Kana, about interaction, about the older people. I'm older people as well. So good human AI interface, good human AI collaboration. And I see one good thing about AI, which I'm really excited about. I'm doing some research on that, is the AI application in healthcare. Huge potential, especially also for drugs discovery. I think there's just one drug that was designed and discovered by AI, and it just got the initial FDA approval. So I see a lot of potential there. We as humans do not have the time to read through all the medical journals and try to synthesize all the knowledge together to come up with new things. But AI can do that. It does not have to sleep. It works 24/7. It's much faster than us. So there's a lot of potential in the AI space for healthcare. The other one maybe a tip for Mahit. I think accumulation of wealth is important in the uncertain time. So don't forget about that. Yeah, so we don't, we work hard. We also need to know how to accumulate wealth. Okay, so it's something important, especially in the uncertainty ahead.
Great. Thanks, Prof. Renee?
Yep, I certainly think that it's a bright future economically. Well, I would love that businesses can evolve for a seamless, immersive experience for everyone. So it's much more efficient, be it for healthcare, shopping, or any form of interaction. But also the rise in tech, there's also rise in many other issues. I hope we as humans don't feel empty with AI companions, or at a time where we can't differentiate between real and real experience anymore. And I really hope that, for technologists to really advocate for AI for good, it really starts with who designs the technology to build a more inclusive society. So AI can be inclusive. It can allow groups of people whom we deem as not being able, handicapped, to have equal access and capabilities like any one of us. The tip for our dear Mahit is, whatever that you intend to do, always have a good intention, be it as a leader, as a technologist, or whatnot. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Renee, Prof. Xiao, Oliver, Mahit, a lot of information shared here. Mahit, I hope you leave the room that you're in with a lot more understanding of, well, it is a complex environment. It's going to get more and more complex as things progress even further. Whether we are able to handle that, I think maybe what we should do is identify what it is we want to do and see how we can, in some parts, narrow the focus and channel your learnings and gatherings in that direction. And I think one of the things that I've benefited from the education that I've had, it was rote, but I also bucked the trend and got immersed in a whole lot of different things. So I got engaged in sports, in theater, in drama, in different sorts of activities. It was all these various experiences come together and enrich you. And it's funny how sometimes something I learned 40 years ago suddenly becomes useful today. So you'd never know when you will need some information, or some information will become very handy down the line. So stay open to that, accept the fact that there's so many things going on, learn from the environment as much as you do from your device. And just bear in mind, ChatGPT does lie on occasion. It'll get better, I'm sure. But once again, thanks again to the panelists for a very thought-provoking and inspiring sort of discussion about what lies ahead.